Yeah, the only thing I'd like to say at the outset, though, is I'm obviously excited to be here, be at the game today, and also we're excited to welcome Temple, obviously, into the conference. Very excited, and go ahead, whatever you have.
With all of the expansion, what about your name? Is it going to change? What's the first word?
We have no plans to change the name. We are looking at pretty much everything because the conference is reinvented. We're reinventing it, obviously. It's going to be a bigger conference. It's going to be a more national conference in scope. On the other hand, there's a tremendous brand equity built up in the Big East name. And as you know, names, nowadays, the Big Ten has 12 teams, the Big 12 has 10 teams. The fact that it's the Big East is not a concern in terms of geography. The name, though, has enormous brand equity. We have a proud tradition, obviously a proud history, 30 years of unbelievable success. And so consequently, no plans to change the name. We're looking at pretty much everything. We're going to look at, our logo. We'll look at, various taglines for the conference, things that we can identify, how we identify the conference, but no plans at this point to make any changes. We're very comfortable with a great name.
Has the Big East started discussions yet on a new TV deal?
No, we will soon. We will obviously start, and obviously, as you know, we have an exclusive period with our longtime partner, our valued partner, ESPN. We tend to have, we intend to have obviously a vigorous negotiation with ESPN. Obviously, we have a lot of interested parties, but we value that relationship. These two entities grew up with each other. The Big East was obviously one of the first conferences that ESPN embraced, and the Big East has done a lot for ESPN over the years. We have an outstanding relationship, and that'll start soon.
In your perspective on Temple, going back as far as sort of your view from where you were, I don't know how familiar you were with this.
Oh, absolutely. Look, first of all, I'm delighted. Obviously, the football program has been rebuilt. The basketball program is strong. Temple brings an enormous amount to the conference, and in the past, obviously, there were some twists and turns. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm just delighted to have Temple now, and you've obviously got an outstanding football coach, you've got an outstanding basketball coach. I think this university is a great university, obviously, in a major market. We're absolutely delighted to have Temple in the conference.
Talk about plans to add a 14th team.
Yeah, we've talked about it. As you know, next year we'll have 12 because Navy will not come into the league for another few years, and 12 is fine. 12 is a balanced divisional setup. When you go to 13, it creates a little bit of an imbalance, obviously. We're not going to talk about names or anybody that potentially could be added. We've said we would look at potential expansion. 14, we all know, makes a lot of sense when you're doing divisional play in a conference. So we'll take a look. As I said, though, we didn't have any plans to raid anybody, and we would be very open and transparent in the process if, in fact, there was a situation that was, going to occur. But at this point, we have no plans, but we have to think about it, of course.
Are you considering any changes to the basketball tournament format?
No, not at this point. No, and again, I have to. I've already, I had to hit the ground running, and I wanted to hit the ground running because this is obviously a critical time for the conference. But we'll look at everything, but no plans to do anything differently at this point.
Assuming you go East and West in the divisions, is Temple still slated to go out West?
Yeah, we haven't decided on that, and we're not necessarily going to go East or West. East-West. We could do it differently. We could mix a bit, and we could come up with a system that minimizes travel, that keeps certain rivalries in place. I don't want to go any further than that on it at this point, but we're looking at the divisional alignment in a way that will make the most sense for the majority of schools. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect from everyone's standpoint, but you certainly want to minimize travel, and that would apply to Temple being on the East Coast. It would apply to San Diego State. It would apply to Boise. As you know, we got the Texas schools. We're a national conference now. That creates great opportunity for us with the 4 time zones, with the national reach, but it also creates some things that we have to deal with as well.
Now, you said something about, you guys are going to keep the name the Big East.
Yeah, there are no plans to change it.
There's no plans, but it just seemed like it was written about earlier. Was it one of those things that you initially think about changing the name, and after giving it more thought, you decided not to?
No, we haven't. No. We're doing an ongoing review of our name, everything. An ongoing review of basic things regarding the conference. One of the things is the name, and so we haven't decided anything yet. But again, as I said, no plans to change it, and I know the incredible, again, brand equity that name has. So at this point, that's probably, you know, pretty much all I can say.
You discussed trying to minimize travel. Would that make a Western member more attractive if you did add a 14th?
Well, you know, again, people can always speculate as to which teams might be appropriate for the conference, but again, I don't know, again, where we would necessarily go, and I really don't want to get into it. Because you know you have a configuration now with Texas and obviously with San Diego State and Boise. It's manageable. If it were a Western team, it'd be fine. If it were a team from somewhere else, you could figure something out as well. But again, I don't want to. You know, I'm not using any names, and I really don't want to get into that when you talk about something as sensitive as that. Because you know we've been through a lot the last 2 years with conference realignment, and you certainly don't want to spark any rumors or cause any concerns among anyone.
Anything else, everybody? When you're building a conference, how much less important are things like attendance and tradition compared to just TV market, even compared to 10 or 20 years ago?
They're all important. I'm not going to minimize attendance, natural rivalries. You know, when we brought, you know, when Memphis comes into the conference, the rivalry with Louisville gets you know, rejuvenated, reignited. That's a tremendous long-term rivalry. We want to keep rivalries. Obviously, we have a Temple-Villanova rivalry in Philadelphia. Obviously, we have them all over the place. What we'd like to do, markets are important, but when these teams were brought in, and I wasn't here, obviously, when the teams were brought in, these teams were brought in for a lot of reasons. They're great institutions. They obviously have tradition. They have history. They have programs on the upswing. They have programs that have a lot of promise. We never had a team in the football conference like Boise, which has a national reputation earned, a national name, you know, a national darling in a way because of what happened in the Fiesta Bowl several years ago. That was a unique thing that launched the Boise program. Like just as Gonzaga's program was launched when it had that run in 1999 in the NCAA tournament, very similar, and the success has been sustained. So when the Big East looked at those schools, there were a lot of factors that came into play, and I think, you know, in looking at it, we've added. They added back in the spring, and we've added now that I'm the commissioner. We've added some wonderful programs and schools, great academic institutions, as well as schools that have had successful programs. And they all had outstanding coaches that have built these programs. Some have left. We've got brand new coaches that are outstanding. You know, you have a football coach. I have some history with Steve. You know, he did an outstanding job at Florida. You have a lot of promise here in Philadelphia, and we have a lot of promise nationally.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the playoff format coming together in 2 years now?
Yeah, again, I'm happy that it was established. I think the country was demanding it. I think the commissioners realized that. I think its limited scope is good. There'll be some nuances to work out in terms of how the teams are going to be selected. That's going to be discussed in some meetings we've got upcoming, which obviously I'll be a part of. But all in all, it appears to be a very fair system, and it's something that we can build on. Obviously, it will mean vastly increased revenues for all the schools that play at our level of football. So it's a good thing. It's very good.
Where is the Big East as far as landing what is now a BCS Bowl outside of outside whatever?
You know, we expect to have access. We are working on it now in terms of which bowls potentially you know, we'd be in, and I probably should leave it at that. But we're having ongoing discussions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.